So,
Hello, Ms. Mendoza. How are you doing this evening?
hello, I'm doing well. How are you?
Fine, thanks. So, uh, this interview is for our quality engineering role. Um, so, we're a medical device company, and so we make parts that go into helping doctors perform their procedures. And what we do is important to um, improving patient outcomes. So uh, let me, just kind of put that up front. It's like this is, um, important part of a uh, highly regulated industry. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, yeah. I'm actually really interested in this job position. As you see on my resume, I have some qualifications because I'm currently a certification engineer, where I deal in area that is in the automotive industry, which is not medical devices, but it is regulated by the government. So I have some experience with the technical lingo that goes into like government regulated portions um, of different areas within like the job fields. So I think that's something that I am interested in. I feel like I have the experience for that.
Yeah. So, um, how have you gotten into the automotive industry? Give me a little bit about your professional experience.
Yes. So I originally majored in mechanical engineering and graduated from the University of San Diego, and then got a job at General Motors when I graduated college, and have been working there since. I've always liked, um, I've been a very hands-on person, so I've always liked the aspect of some pulling things apart, putting them back together, which is how I got into mechanical engineering. And I've always had a passion for cars. And sooner or a couple years ago, I became more interested in the kind of the bigger spectrum of engineering, which is why I went into the position of certification and compliance, where you kind of see everything as a whole. So I really do like that aspect of engineering where you're kind of at the bottleneck of the development process, and you kind of see it out as a whole project in the end, and you you don't see it from start to finish, but you do see the big picture of it all. And although you do, for me personally, it's not hands on as I'm used to, but it's definitely a a great experience that I feel like is valuable, and I feel like it's a great match for this job position.
Yeah, so um, within your industry, are there professional certifications that are typically associated with engineers in the compliance, regulatory, quality side of things?
Not within like engineers, but there are um, it's a part more of a higher level position that people have to acquire those certifications. They're technical fellows in my department. So there is potential for that, but me personally, I don't have those certifications, but I feel like I do have the experience for these certifications. And it's if it's something that um, I'm required to have, I'm more than willing to, you know, study and prove that I do have those qualifications.
All right, yeah. In medical device, they're preferred, but not necessarily required. Like we do like to have quality engineers who have the American Society for Quality certifications for certified quality engineer. Um, we'd love certified quality auditor, but it's not required. Those are just preferred. So I was kind of interested to see if there is an automotive equivalent to those since, yeah, those are preferred things, but sounds like you'd be willing to jump right into that.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
so speaking of that, what's prompted you to start looking for a new position?
I feel like I'm at a position in my career where I want to grow and it kind of expand my qualities and my experiences. So I feel like I think that what makes a good engineer would probably be someone who kind of has experience in different areas of within engineering. So I've been at GM for 6 years. So I feel like I would like to move into a different direction and go into the medical device industry, and kind of use my experiences and everything that I've learned here and apply that to a different area. So I feel like I'm looking for growth mainly.
All right. So, um, what's your current work environment like, and what do you think is that what you think your ideal is, or is there a difference between your current work environment and what you think your ideal work environment would be?
Great question. I would say that my current work environment is in office, or it's hybrid mainly. I go into the office 3 times a week and work from home twice a week. It's nice to have that flexibility, and also kind of to have that face-to-face uh, dialogue with people when I have questions or if I need to get something done. I do like that it's pretty fast paced, because there's deadlines that I have to meet. Um, I in the, from the on the automotive side, there's stop orders that are put in place at the plant, which basically means that a car that is built at the factory you can't put a sticker on it to sell it until it is certified. So I pretty much have control of of that action. So I have to pretty move pretty quickly, or else my phone will be ringing from somebody at the plant saying, "Hey, I need to start selling cars, and you haven't certified this. What's wrong?" So definitely don't want to get those calls. Uh, Very fast paced in that regard. I manage a timeline. I work well with other people as well. There's a lot of different departments that I have to communicate to. Um, so I'm pretty much speaking to different areas within the company. So I feel like that's kind of the work environment that I'm in, where I report to my manager, my general manager, and I also speak to my director. Um, so yeah, I think that's how I would describe my work environment. And I would say that my ideal work environment would be something similar to what I'm currently living or currently working in. So simply because I feel like I'm very adaptable. I was working in a different area of engineering, which was in calibration, and that was pretty much I was in vehicle pretty much like 8 hours out of the day. Would have lunch in my car sometimes because you had to, get your calibrations out. And I was traveling a lot as well. Probably like half of the year I was traveling to either like Camp Biscayne scene in Canada or out in Arizona or California or Colorado. So I wasn't at home as much, so that I don't think that was my ideal work environment, to say the least. So I think having a more stable uh, work environment where I'm in the office, speaking to others, or working from home, I think that would be my ideal work environment. But as I mentioned, I feel like I'm very adaptable. So whatever work environment I'm thrown in, I'm more than willing to make it work.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to how we do device history records. So with every device, they need to be certified before they go out, very similar to automotive. So every device needs a certificate of uh, conformance when it goes out. So that is part of the role is there is some interfacing with the quality assurance specialists who do the primary review of the device history record, but the quality engineers do need to come in from time to time and assist with various issues that can come up and prevent a device from getting certified. So it sounds like that would actually be a really good fit. And the calibrations sounds interesting because uh, we use a lot of calibrated equipment in our manufacturing process. So we do have an on-site metrology department, and it'd actually be nice to have somebody who um, is very familiar with calibration to really interface with the metrology department, maybe be the QE liaison between those between the departments. So that actually could be very interesting, and I think that would be a good thing to see. So as far as your adaptability and flexibility, um, how do you, what are the traits that you value most in an employer as far as like helping you maintain that flexibility and balance?
That's a great question. I would say that understanding, in the sense of that, if I'm new to, I'm speaking from a position of me being new in a company. So I feel like as a new employee or as a new employee, understanding that, I'm getting up to speed, um, wanting my boss, my manager to um, be able to kind of guide me in the right direction. If like I would love to have a like a I'm blanking on the word here. Like somebody to train me, like a mentor in a way, like an assigned mentor for my new position. But I also feel like even if I wasn't a new employee, we should all have mentors within our career, someone to kind of guide us in the right direction. I know that's not always the case. Um, yeah, I think that's something I value. Work-life balance as well. I think that's really important. Um, I think in my current role, I have found work-life balance. Unlike in calibration, I felt like there wasn't work-life balance due to all the traveling, which is why I moved into compliance and certification. Um, but yeah, I think those that would be something that I value within my employer. Um, but yeah.
So in regard to that, let me tell you a little bit about our team structure because it sounds like it'd be something that you'd be interested in. So we function in these little, we call them clusters. And so you have in each cluster, you have a project manager, a quality engineer, um, a new product engineer, a sustaining engineer, and somebody from regulatory affairs. So you have that team, and so you guys all work together in that cluster to work on specific projects. So you'll have a product line that you'll become an expert on. And one of the things we try and do with that is we have, um, these cluster groups. Some will very commonly collaborate with each other. And with the groups that collaborate, we always try and have a senior QE in one and a QE in the other. So that's kind of where you can get that mentorship from, is when you have those associated clusters that come together for like a big group, or you have your kind of smaller things where you'll be working within your specific cluster. So it's kind of a mix of independent working, because you're the only QE in your immediate cluster, but you're working with the other QEs in the larger group, and then with your senior QE counterpart. So it kind of blends these levels of, you have to manage your independent work as well as collaborating on the smaller team and then with the larger teams that make up the structure for this role. And is that something that you think would work with your work style?
Definitely. I feel like that fits right perfectly with something that I'm looking for um, in my career. So I feel like I'd be a great fit for this role.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be a good fix. So, how would your current coworkers describe you as far as, being a colleague and, a teammate?
Yeah, I think they would describe me as someone who's like personable, but in the sense that I'm able to collaborate with different areas within engineering. I'm able to speak well with chief engineers or technical specialists or technical fellows. Um, I am a problem solver. If I can't find a solution to something, I try and find someone who will know or try and schedule a meeting with very knowledgeable people to kind of get to the root cause of either the problem or to find the solution. Um, I'm also, I guess, I think I've mentioned this before in the beginning of the interview, where I'm adaptable. But I feel like that's not only within like the office environment, but I think also within like because I volunteer as well outside of GM. So I'm able to adapt within my company. Like I volunteer with other organizations. I'm part of the GM Latino network and like Women in Engineering. So I'm able to adapt in those areas as well and manage my time where I get my work done and also help out within my community. So I think that's important to have as an engineer because, we do have to get our tasks done and solve issues during the day. But I feel like if we are able to kind of help the next generation to move into this engineering space as well, that's also a big plus. And I feel like it's something that we should do. So those are some things that I value, and I think they'd probably use that to describe me as well.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So, has there ever been a time in your career where you've been faced with a decision about um, doing things quickly or doing things, by the regulations? And can you tell me how that uh, went?
Um, that's a great question. Um, I would say happened on Friday, which is kind of funny that this is being asked. So try not to get into too much detail, but essentially what happened was that in order for the stop order to be released that I was discussing earlier from the plant for a vehicle to be sold, there needs to be a running change letter that needs to be written from the designated lead engineers and the energy engineer to basically prove equivalency with that does not that with these changes that are being made in the software that goes into the vehicle, proving that this change is equivalent to what I certified the vehicle with. So basically saying that nothing has changed. This new software does not affect the car in any way. We're still compliant. But this letter needed to be received by Friday, and I did not receive it yet. So I could not sign off on this stop order to be lifted. And I was getting calls from like higher ups telling me I need to sign off for this a car to be sold. We're going to lose millions of dollars. And I I was working very diligently with the other engineers who I needed the letters from, also trying to rush them. Essentially, what I ended up having to do was sat down with my manager, my director, and all of the higher ups, which consisted of like the chief and like assistant chief and all of the engineers who I needed letters from, and just had a discussion of the timeline of these letters, why I haven't signed off for the stop order to be released. And I was getting pushback from the chief to basically ignore the letters, ignore the process, but I stood my ground, even though they were not too happy about that. But my manager, my director, they were on my side, so they also were able to, speak with upper management, and the chief just to kind of explain the situation, explain the process. We can't just not follow the certification process because there's regulations that are involved. So thankfully the letters came in on time, like Friday night. So I had to review them, write my own letter to release the stop order. Um, and I was able to complete this basically like over the weekend. We were like a day late. But yeah, so that's essentially an example that came to mind, where I was being pushed by higher ups, chief engineers to not follow the process, the regulatory process. But I, stood my ground and said no, even though it was hard and people were upset. But at the end of the day, they were understanding because we were able to explain to them the situation, the process. So I think, in the end, it was a win. But yeah.
Yeah, honestly, that sounds like something that change a couple details, and that's exactly one of the things that you will definitely face in this role.
Yeah.
Because there'll be similar pressures with, you know, can we get these lots released? And if you don't have the test data back yet, especially with the sterile products, you can't release a sterile product without the sterility testing being done. So it sounds like they're very similar experiences between your experience in automotive and what are the types of challenges that we face in med device. So that experience would be excellent in this role. So, yeah,
Nice.
honestly, that
Happy, yeah, happy to hear that. Although I think it's interesting that both, even though they're both very different areas of, one's a car, one's a medical device, but the process is still very similar, and I guess the pressures are also very similar.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, it sounds like a lot of the skills and um, things that you've learned from automotive seem like they'd be very compatible with medical device. And it'd just be, a matter of learning the new regulatory requirements, which you need some familiarity with. It wouldn't be a primary part of this role, but it would be, there are certain things that you would need to have a solid foundation on, but sounds like, that would be a fairly easy thing for you to transfer from the automotive regulations to learning the what we have here in med device from the ISO regulations as well as our FDA regulations. So that, you know, honestly, that being able to stand your ground like that is peak quality engineer, what we like to see, because there are a lot of times when plant management comes a knocking and they want stuff out the door, and you have to go, no, we can't do this because we need all of the testing done and it needs a CFC before it can leave. Short of that, I'm sorry, you're not shipping today. Sorry if that
Right.
ruins your deadlines, but it is what it is. So it is really interesting how um, the certification and compliance aligns with what we do in med device quality engineering. So, you know, that, I really like to see that. So with this role, there's also a lot of variety of the kinds of problems you'll be faced with. So you have to learn several different areas of quality engineering. So one of them is the regulatory affairs. Um, One of the primary functions that you'll spend a lot of time with are conducting and leading corrective action, preventative action activities. So do you have familiarity with that?
I do not. Could you please explain in more detail what that is?
Yeah, so with corrective action, preventative action, also known as CAPA, um, when a failure is detected, um, either due to a product, process, material, we identify it, and in order to contain it, a corrective action is put in place. So usually the lot will go on uh, a hold, or it goes in, or components go into quarantine, and we isolate them and do a root cause investigation. And then from that, we determine what the root cause is, and then we come up with a plan for preventative action to ensure that we don't have this failure mode come up again. So, we're putting steps into place to prevent that from being able to happen again.
Okay. Yeah. I think that I guess I never knew that aspect um of the medical device side of quality. But yeah.
So is that something that um, you think would be a part of a role that you would um, be okay with, as far as that being a new challenge for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, how I mentioned how I'm looking to grow within my career, and I think that would be a great opportunity for me to grow in something new to learn, and a new task to kind of take on.
Yeah, and they're not so bad once you get the hang of them, but they can be intimidated, but it seems like you're not easily intimidated, so I don't think that this big process would be too daunting for you. Do you have experience with managing suppliers?
I do not have experience managing suppliers, but I do have experience like dealing with suppliers.